Hello. My name is Fahad Siadat. Welcome to the first event of the new Golden Thread concert series. It's so great to have you here. I'm very excited about this new venture and what I hope will become a new and growing community of people who are interested in this intersection of spiritual practice and artistic experience. The promise of the Golden Thread concert series is an exploration of how we might approach our experience of art and music in particular as a spiritual practice. And while I make no guarantees that you in the audience will experience a particular epiphany or divine revelation, I do hope that this is a space in which we can excite our curiosity about this idea and ask questions. For me, the central question of this concert is, to what are we listening? Alvin Lucier, one of the highly celebrated composers and educators of the late 20th century and who passed away just a few weeks ago, once said, "I am not interested in your opinion, I am interested in your perception." I love how quickly that statement cuts to the heart of deep listening practice, the kind of practice that was cultivated by artists like Lucier and Pauline Oliveros, who sort of coined the term, and John Cage. How much of our energy is put into our thoughts about an experience, our opinions, our ideas, and moralizing, rather than on the experience itself? And what might shift for us if we could put those thoughts aside for a moment and instead devote ourselves more completely to the experience? I would guess that Lucier was not only interested in our perception, but how our perception changes through the experience of these pieces, and consequently, how that change in perception affects who we are. Put differently, when we are willing to give our deep attention in this way, how might the experience of this music change and expand our perception? I believe this kind of listening can be a transformative experience. Many years ago, when I was in my undergraduate, I had the opportunity to hear John Cage's seminal work, 4 minutes and 33 seconds, for the first time in a live setting. And if you're not familiar, that piece is a sort of prime example of early experimental music. It's nominally 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence. And I had, of course, learned about this piece before in the collegiate environment, and I had learned about the piece. I had learned about the concept surrounding it, the ideas that it represented, but not about the experience of the piece itself. Many of my friends, for instance, considered the piece a joke or like a prank of sorts on academia, or in other ways like the epitome of academic music itself. All intellectual thought and idea with literally no musical substance. But no one had ever described to me their personal experience of the piece. For instance, did you know that this piece, 433, is divided into 3 movements? This surprised me during the performance, but it also made the experience of sitting in silence for 4.5 minutes completely different. It's funny to say, but each movement had its own character. I remember during the first movement, which is about 30 seconds long, the audience sat respectfully, and at least on my part, a little smugly, being in the know about the piece and waiting to see how everyone else was going to react. The second movement, which is just under 2.5 minutes, the second movement is where things got interesting. The audience got a bit restless. There was nervous shifting, giggling, coughing, and I spent a good amount of energy resisting the urge to just stand up and scream, "The emperor is wearing no clothes." And then, like the perfect absurdity of a Zen koan, I heard someone shushing someone else. The irony was perfect. I mean, they were shushing someone during a piece that was all silence. To what were we listening? I had in my mind that the piece was nominally not just about silence, but about the random noises of the room, of the performance space. Those things were the composition. And I was spending so much time on my inner dialogue and my thoughts about the piece and about what was happening that I hadn't really asked myself this simple question: to what am I listening? The last movement, just over a minute and a half, I finally let go of all that internal dialogue, and I just listened. I listened to the rustling and the creaking and the giggling and the sounds of the people and the sounds of the world, both big and small. And suddenly, it was a delight. It was this intricate dance of sounds that were both simultaneously totally mundane and wonderfully elegant. As far as I'm concerned, the real title of 433 is Pay Attention. And I don't think that would be such a bad title for this concert and for every piece on this program as well. Composers like Cage, Lucier, Oliveros, Tenney came to the world of sound as a physical experience and approached it with the curiosity of a scientist and the delight of an artist. Their joy came directly from the experience of the sound itself, unhindered by their own inner monologue and running commentary. For me, this concert is the heart of deep listening. It is about moving outside of ourselves and towards the world, cultivating our curiosity and enthusiasm and loving attention. And when we approach the world in such a way, we run the risk of uncovering and rediscovering the whole world anew, finding something deeper and more fundamental, no longer so humble, but suddenly marvelous. Through care, deep attention, and disciplined practice, these composers unearth the potential of these objects, these humble vessels, until they find new depth and greater significance, and give us, as listeners, the same opportunity if we are willing to follow them on that journey. And this is just with inanimate objects. Imagine what might be possible if we took that same practice and we put such conscious attention towards the living beings around us, towards our friends and our family, the people sitting to either side of us. It is perhaps an intimidating and overly intimate proposition. The simple, inanimate objects are an emotionally easier place to begin, an entry point to such a practice. But consider how might we be changed by giving such deep listening, such curiosity and enthusiasm and loving attention to each other. And the deeper proposition still, what might happen if we turn that same listening inward? What might be uncovered when we pay attention to ourselves, to this humble vessel? What deep well of potential is forged in the crucible of our most inner being when we put it to the flame? When properly harnessed, what can we do, and what might we become? So the question for this concert is, to what will you listen? And I hope this question can lead us into listening to this music as a spiritual practice today.